Hi, I'm Tara. Welcome to my N of 1 YouTube channel. This is the anti-aging and pro-health span journey of a double null genotype, which I'll explain in a little bit. N of 1, first of all. In scientific studies, the sample size N needs to be as large as possible for good statistical analysis for significance. However, there is a surprising amount of variability between people. Even though we're all very similar biologically, there are a lot of differences as well. And these differences can add up. So N of 1 means I'm doing an experiment with all sorts of data, with all sorts of tests, with all sorts of procedures for me alone, based on my genetics and my test results. In these videos, I'm going to share with you all of the data that I've collected and continue to collect so that you can draw your own conclusions from it. This is not medical advice. This is not a recommendation for you. This is you being able to observe how I track myself and how I make the decisions that I do based on that data. This kind of tracking is particularly important for me because of the double null genotype that I mentioned. And these are two genes, GST-T1 and GST-M1. These genes are involved in the detoxification of the body. I have neither of those genes. This means that the enzymes that break down the waste products of what I eat, of my metabolic processes, and of any drugs and supplements that I take, these enzymes are simply not there. Now, some of the other GST enzymes, the genes, pick up some of that load, but the tendency is that I accumulate toxins. It takes a long time for me to flush things out of my system. This means I have to be really careful on what I take in terms of toxins in the body and the levels at which I apply everything. So I can't just go gung-ho and take a massive amount of a particular supplement, because there'll come a point when the toxic buildup in my system will outweigh the benefits. This double null genotype occurs in about 10 to 11% of people globally, and you'll only know that if you actually have your DNA test done. If you have this genotype, welcome. I hope you might find this interesting. And if you don't have this genotype, well, it might be interesting anyway. So what's the deal about health span? Health span is the amount of time during your total lifespan that you are functional, that you are healthy, that you're able to get around, to do things and be active and not ill and on medication and hooked up to various monitors. For me, I want that period to be as long as possible. And I have an inspiration. Back in about 1999, I came across Grandpa Jack, not my grandpa, my friend's grandfather, and he was 102. And he was what you would call spry in an old man. He was walking around. He wasn't jumping and skipping around, but he could walk quite comfortably. He could climb the steps, and we were having dinner together. And he had a ham and cheese pizza, and he was tucking into it. He loved it. So clearly his bowels were working okay. He was very sharp. He was keeping up with conversation. There was no mental decline in him at all. And he was involved in his community. He had recently learned how to work with computers, but bear in mind this is in 1999, and he had a website that he was promoting recycling in the community. He would print leaflets and he would go around and distribute them. He was living what I would consider to be a healthy, active, rich life at the age of 102. Now, back then, I thought it was all down to his genes. He had a sister who was 100. He had other relatives who had made it into the centenarians. So clearly he had good genes on his side. And when I look at my family, clearly I don't. There's recently been an explosion in anti-aging, pro-health span research in the scientific community. And they've determined that the genetics really only affect about 15% of your total expected lifespan. But much more of it is down to lifestyle. Now, of course, there are things I can't control, like external events, accidents, things like that. But there is also an awful lot I can control. And when you look at the modern diseases, when we're looking at cancer and diabetes and Alzheimer's and heart disease, a lot of that is related to how we live our life on a day-to-day basis. So the big question for me is, how can I make my lifestyle such that I optimize my health span so that I live as long as possible, as healthily as possible? And this is what this YouTube channel is all about. I'm going to be tracking me and my decisions and what I do and the results, and tweak according to the data. I'm going to be sharing it all with you. This is going to help keep me accountable to make sure I stick to what I decide to do and keep to my plans. And you might find it interesting as well. Looking back, I've done quite a lot of tests and interventions and experiments on myself in terms of my health, in terms of my longevity. I'm going to use all of that data to help drive my decisions in a very specific way. So again, this is my journey. It's not recommendations, and it's certainly not medical advice. And I can also say there's this growing trend towards hyper-personalization in medicine and in wellness. This can only be a good thing. And the reason that it's growing is because we can track things. So I love data. I have a number of different devices at home that I use to track my health and well-being. And I've got a number of other tests that I have had in the past and will do in the future to go even more in depth. So here are my stats. I'm 55 years old. I'm 5'6.5" or 168 centimeters. I weigh 9 stone 11, which is 137 pounds, which is 62 kilos. And my blood pressure this morning was 121/72. All very good. When I go to my doctor, they're not interested. They'll send me away. And this is my problem with doctors, not doctors personally, but doctors are looking for disease. So when they see me, they see a very healthy person and they send me away. They have nothing for me. But what I want is to maintain that health. And if aging, as we now know, is a gradual decline and a gradual change, then I don't want to have to wait until I'm massively toxified and diseased before I get any help. I want as much help as early on as possible. And I want to make sure that I keep my health as optimal as absolutely possible. So I have no major health issues. I'm not on any medication except for hormone replacement therapy that I recently started. And just one thing, so let me show you. See here, this is basal cell carcinoma. It's skin cancer or rodent ulcers, and I just had that spotted by the doctors, and I am getting treatment for it. And I'll talk about why I think I have this in another of my videos. But apart from that, massively healthy, and the doctors really don't want to talk to me. But the burning question I have is, what is the best lifestyle for me? Because if you go and look at pretty much anything on the internet, you can look up diet, you can look up exercise, and you can say, which is the best diet, exercise, fasting, supplements, any of those. There are thousands of opinions. When you have all of that and they're contradictory, there's no guidance. And so the only thing I can use as guidance, or rather what I'm most comfortable using as guidance, is my own data that I collect and published scientific research that I use as the basis for that decision and analysis of that data. So in this N of 1 channel, I'm going to be looking at my diet, my exercise, my supplements, and my anti-aging treatments as well. I do have a background in engineering, which means that I have a tendency to look for data-based, practical results. I'm not worried about the theory. Scientists can figure that out, what works and what doesn't. So in all of these videos, I'm going to be sharing all of my test data. I'm going to be sharing my information sources. This is going to be the videos that I'm watching on YouTube with other scientists and other experts, and also the research publications that they're producing. I'm going to explain the reasoning for my decisions and adjust to research as it's coming in. And at the moment, research in this field is changing blindingly fast. What I'm looking for is the crumbs of information that I can use and pull in from all of these areas to guide what I do. The context of all of this is the double null genotype, the fact that my body does not clear toxins as fast. So it means that staying on a particular supplement regime for a long time, for example, could be a bad idea. Maybe I have to rotate things. Maybe I have to include breaks in things. And there's even been research to show that that is a way to adjust the effects of, or the side effects of, drugs and supplements. The data I have at home right now, I have blood pressure monitor, of course, weighing scales. I have my full genetic profile data. I have an Oura ring, which tracks my sleep and my heart rate variability. I have an iHeart device that checks my blood oxygenation. I have a heart math device that looks at my stress levels. And I've just ordered a Lumen device to help me track my metabolism. Those I can update at any time. I also have blood test data, hormone assays, I have ultrasounds and x-rays, and I'm planning to do fitness testing, aging clocks, go back to something called the bod pod, and even look at exosomes and blood plasma. Currently where I am on this grand journey, I'm calling it the Great Reset, because 3 weeks ago, I decided that I was only going to eat food that my body agreed with and that supports my optimal health span. I have cut out all dairy because I'm slightly lactose intolerant, and I have cut out all sugar. Now I know from the research out there that my microbiome, my gut bacteria, will take about 3 months to settle down to this new eating regime. And I'm 3 weeks into that. After the 3 months, I'm then going to have a microbiome test. There's no point in me having it now because I'm changing things. And I'll also at that point do another set of blood tests, another set of hormone tests, and see where I am as a baseline for the rest of my journey. Also, I am getting over COVID. Over the last 3 weeks, I've had this lingering slight croakiness in my voice. So when you hear it go away in a few weeks' time, don't think I've had a massive breakthrough in terms of my health and anti-aging strategies. 3 weeks ago, I also started a new supplement program, which is rotating weeks of MitoQ for mitochondrial oxidation, grapeseed extract to help get rid of senolytic cells, and alpha-ketoglutarate in the form of rejuvenate product. I'm spending 1 week on each of these, and then a 4th week resting and building my microbiome. The reason that I'm doing that rotation is because I'm concerned about build-up of toxicity, build-up of these supplements in my system, in my blood plasma. It seems like a good idea to do right now, and I'm going to track and check and test and see where it leads me. I hope you found this intriguing. What differences do I have to make to account for my genetic profile for this double null genotype? So in the next video, I'm going to go into the details of the double null genotype and all the research that has shown why it's important to moderate drugs and supplementation and toxins that are taken in. I hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching.